Just days after the Supreme Court ruled against the Trump administration on LGBTQ rights, well, today it did the same thing, this time on one of President Trump's signature policies, immigration. The Supreme Court this morning, in a major decision, temporarily blocking President Trump from ending the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program known as DACA.
I'm elated.
This means over 600,000 immigrants brought to America as kids, then provided legal status by the Obama administration, are now protected from deportation and allowed to work in the U.S. legally. So-called dreamers, like this 23-year-old recipient who came from Colombia as a teenager.
I've had DACA since I was 15, 16 years old. It's allowed me to go to college. It's allowed me to get a full-time job. That could have all been stripped away had the court decided differently today.
Chief Justice John Roberts, he wrote the majority's 5-4 ruling saying the Trump administration violated federal law when rescinding the program 3 years ago. The court says they didn't consider the impact on recipients and called the president's decision arbitrary and capricious. Despite today's major ruling, there still could be challenges ahead for DACA. The president tweeting he will try ending it again. As President of the United States, I'm asking for a legal solution on DACA, not a political one, consistent with the rule of law. The Supreme Court is not willing to give us one, so now we have to start this process all over again. Still, his Democratic challenger for President Joe Biden calling the court's decision a victory, saying, as president, I will immediately work to make it permanent by sending a bill to Congress on day one of my administration. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying today he won't stand for the president trying to end the program again.
These kids, their families, I feel for them, and I think all of America does. Now, on some other issues. But again, I cannot, the Supreme Court, who would have thought, would have so many good decisions in 1 week.
And Congressman Adriano Espaillat, he's a Democrat representing Upper Manhattan in New York, and he's kind enough to give us a few minutes. And Congressman, I know you probably didn't know which way the Supreme Court was going to go on DACA, but to you, these aren't just X hundred thousands of people this would have impacted. You know some of the faces and some of their stories. Just how big a victory was it for so many families today?
Yes, I believe that dissension is patriotic. I'm glad to see Justice Roberts disagree with the president. And it shows that the judicial branch is an independent branch, as it should be, equal branch in government, that it has the ability to differ from the executive. That's what the founders and the framers of the Constitution really put out there. And so we're happy that this happened. It's a great victory for immigrants. It lifts our spirit at a difficult time, right after the pandemic and right in the middle of the fight to end police brutality. I think it's a shot in the arm for America, and there's still hope for America.
Congressman, I know you're familiar with some of the allegations coming out of the Bolton book, specifically sitting on foreign relations. His point was this wasn't just Ukraine. This president, you know, with the conversation between what he asked Xi to do to help his re-election prospects, talking about invading Venezuela, as well as, you know, doing deals with despots across the globe and trying to shut down investigations. Bolton's contention was if Democrats in the House took more time, they could have had a stronger case for impeachment, which he believes was warranted against the president. How do you look at that? Was he right that it was rushed, or you guys didn't have any choice with the political calendar?
No, I don't think it was driven by a political calendar. We did what we had to do. I think it's a mistake to rehash this or the Monday morning quarterback on this. We had a strong case. The Senate was purely partisan in this effort, and we saw how they excluded witnesses and they really stacked the deck against the impeachment process. So I'm not ashamed, nor do I feel sorry that we moved forward the way we did and how we did it. I think we did the right thing. The American people wanted us to move forward. We were deliberate about it. It wasn't overnight. We gathered all the evidence, and I think we did the right thing. Unfortunately, I think that the Senate had the cards stacked against us. So I'm not sorry how we did it, and if I had to do it again, I'll probably do it the same way.
You've been vocal over the years in terms of reform as it relates with policing, and I'm curious, I know you put out a 10-point plan. How does this work? Because you got cities who are being proactive. You know, Governor Cuomo laid out, and already the state legislature has gotten behind. While there's ongoing both House and Senate proposals, you know, can everybody do this? Do you need one plan? Who do you look to for leadership in having real change?
Well, ultimately, I think it has to happen nationally, but the states and the municipalities have a stake at this as well. There are certain things that must happen at the state level and at the local level, but ultimately, I think people across the world are looking for change, not just in the United States. This is now an international movement, and I think it requires sweeping changes nationally. So I'm looking forward to going back next week to Washington, where we hope to take up some of these bills that were included in the Harlem Manifesto against police brutality.
You optimistic? I've said to some folks that while the Senate plan for the Republicans I didn't think went far enough, I think if you go back 6 months ago and they had put that thing forward, we'd be shocked at the new floor that's there. It seems there's a deal to be had, or am I just being naive?
No, I think that the Senate is also feeling the mood in the country. And again, this transcends when you see the marches, even in small cities across the country, in urban settings and in rural settings, there's discomfort about the way police are policing communities. I think is a legitimate discourse with young people leading the way. I think it's important that we listen to young people of color. Black Lives Matter. We must listen to their claims, and they must be the leaders in this. They cannot be replaced by a voice that is not authentic as they are. And I think that people around the country, and both the House and the Senate, are listening to them. I think it's legitimate. I think we could have an agreement on some of the points that are up for discussion.
Let's hope so. Congressman, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Up next, President Trump says mission accomplished, COVID fading away. But the facts and numbers prove otherwise. After the break, ABC News chief medical correspondent Dr. Jen Ashton weighs in.